there, welcome to Humans of Authenticity, and thank you for choosing my podcast. My name is Vili, and I'll be your host. I'm a Vietnamese Australian living in the US, so you'll hear a lot of different accents in my podcast series. Designed as a blank canvas to weave together a rich tapestry of human experiences and identity, Humans of Authenticity will share many heartfelt conversations with my guests on their stories and how they embrace their authenticity in all forms. In each episode, my guests will choose a keyword from a selection of 12, which will be used as the theme of the conversation. These keywords change frequently, so you will only hear the same keyword once. Enjoy the episode today. Hi Shan, thank you so much for being here with me on my channel. Let's start with your story. Can you share 3 things about you that you want others to know?
Thanks for having me, Dee. I'm excited to share my story with you, and I hope that you find it insightful, impactful, and it can help others. 3 things I would like people to know about me is that I'm dedicated, I'm compassionate, and I empathize with others.
Can you unpack one of those for me? I find compassionate is a very interesting topic as the world these days go around with so many incidents. For good cause or for bad cause, how can we embrace that compassionate so that we can function better, not only as an individual, but also a member of society?
Thanks, Bea. Compassionate is, although it's so simple, is yet hard to do. To be compassionate is just to simply show that you care. You may not agree with someone, or someone may have a different perspective from you, but to show that you care means a lot. Let's that other person on the receiving end see that, okay, this person understands me. They're willing to listen without listening for a response. And that's just simply it. And then when we tie that into so much that is happening in the world today, or what that person may be dealing with, whether it's personal matters, professional matters, just having someone to simply show that they care for me, care about me, can change the leveling field.
I love how you say that we should listen. We should not listen for a response. And for me in particular, it's hard because most of the time when I listen and as I engage in a topic, then different thought bubbles start popping up in my mind. How about this question? How about that perspective? I think that's number one, our ego come into the conversations. We want to express ourselves and we want to raise our voice in the conversation, right? And then number 2, we also want it to be listened. We also want it to be understood in that conversation. What's your advice for people like me finding all of that thought bubbles at the same time? I also wanted to be present in that conversations and be present with that person.
One point of advice I can share that may be helpful. It takes some work to silence that inner self, or those things that come up when someone is sharing something, and whether we have a background in it or the expertise, and those thoughts quickly formulate at that moment and you want to just quickly get them out. But just being thoughtful to listen, because sometimes someone can share something and not necessarily ask for advice or wanting a response, but just someone to just really listen. And then after they share what it is that they're speaking of, then at that moment, if you wanted to then share a word of advice or ask questions, that's that moment to ask those clarifying questions, or as we hear, just to make sure I heard you correctly. Is this something that you're struggling with? Just however we frame it, just fully listening and hearing the whole story without quickly giving any type of advice, recommendations, and especially if it's not being asked. I am too one that struggles with something like that. So I have to learn how to, when someone's speaking to me, I'm listening for understanding. I'm listening to see if this is something where they are asking for advice or asking for input, or just simply, I don't want to use the word venting, but just something that they want to express and may have not been able to. Going back to what we talked about earlier, having that compassion, someone that cares, and then with the overarching theme of authenticity, most times that's held back because of just different segments like this. Someone may have something to talk about or to share, but you can't fully get out what you want to say because either whom you're speaking with is not listening, or they're listening to respond and say, okay, this is what you should do. And then that takes you away from your whole point. Well, I just wanted to, get this off my chest, if that makes sense.
Completely done. Yeah, I agree with you. It needs to come from that awareness level. Unless we are aware, we can't really work on that. So thank you for that insight. Let's unpack another elements of your response just there about being our authentic self and at the same time help back ourselves in that dynamic. We all know that we should embrace our authentic nature a lot more, but that's not always the case. What factors do you think that prevent us from showing our true self?
Some factors I believe that cause us not to show our true self is fear. And that fear can be, well, I thought this person was different. Well, this person is not who I thought they were. So then that keeps you from being your authentic self. Being judged. I can share from my story, although I've not been the one to be more concerned about how others view me, but different points of my life where I thought I would have attained or accomplished certain things, and these are all personal goals to me, that didn't happen. But I live in a world or society in my professional setting and my colleagues where these things, it's almost as if, why didn't that happen yet? And it sets you apart and looks at you differently. And so, because of those reasons, that can also cause someone to not be their authentic self because they don't want to be looked at differently. They don't want to be viewed as if is something wrong with that person or what's going on with you. And diving a little bit deeper into that for me on my educational journey that I'm on now, many years ago when I first started college, I went through that experience, but I didn't finish because of life. That was something that I was never ashamed of, but also recognized being in certain professional settings or just in society where it's like, why haven't you completed college yet, or what happened to you? I mean, just those different questions. But being on the journey now where I've completed one degree, I'm working on my second and things like that. And so that can make someone um, feel ashamed. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, where having that component where someone is listening, if someone is sharing a similar story, you immediately would have these questions in your head, like, well, why they didn't finish or what was going on at that time. And it's just simply just listen to the story that I'm sharing. And then also when you hear that story, well, the journey is different. We're all on different journeys and different paths. And what one person may have completed or accomplished at one point will be different. And knowing that we all don't hit the same milestones at the same time, that can also prevent someone from truly being their authentic self.
Let's switch hat for a second.
Mhm.
You've laid out a few factors that prevent us from being our true self. When we're switching hat now as a leader, what do you think that we should do to remove these factors to assist the people around us?
Some of the barriers that we can do from a leadership standpoint, it's just simply that removing those barriers to know that everyone is different, everyone learns different. Although this is the common goal or the common thing, we will all get there at different milestones, if that makes sense. As a leader, you cultivate each one in that individuality to get there to accomplish that one goal. You may not hit the mark at the same time, but as a leader, you create that environment or that space where either you craft or you lay out the different markers to help that person reach that goal versus then just this is what the goal is, this is what we need to do to achieve it, and that's it. I think it's also important for the leader to remove that barrier, to have that knowledge to show that individual, to help them learn, and then also to provide those resources. Most times, we can see in a professional setting or even personal setting that different goals are not achieved or can be attained because it can be as simple as resources. What does resources mean? That's different for different people. Um, but just having that environment where you can provide the resources, provide the training, or just that knowledge base will help that individual.
That's really cool. So let's get to our theme of the conversation today. I gave you a list of 12 keywords to choose from. Which one did you select?
Persistence.
What does persistent mean for you?
To me, persistence mean regardless of what the obstacle or the challenge looks like, you continue to push forward. I like to include that because we can say, well, persistence means that you have to keep going. Yes, it does mean that. But then when you're faced with a challenge or obstacle and it's over again repeatedly, do you continue to push forward or do you just throw in the towel and say, you know, maybe I need to go a different route? This isn't for me. And for me, I like to frame it where, regardless of what the challenge you're facing or whatever is in your way, if this is what your goal is part of your purpose, you push through. And it ties back into regardless of what that milestone may have been for another person that may be working towards that same goal. This is your journey and your goal that you're working towards. So, regardless of what's standing in your way, continue to go forward.
Can you give me an example of how you demonstrate your persistence to achieve your goal?
For me, going back to my college education, it's always been a goal of mine to complete my college degree, and especially when I initially started some time ago. And life happened, work happened. So once that was under control, so I thought it was, I said, okay, this is a time for me to pursue it again. Well, life happened again. And I knew that this was a goal of mine. And regardless of what was going on in life, Shan was going to do whatever it took to complete the goal that I set out to achieve. And I continued to go with that. Obviously, there were also barriers that encompass that, financial barriers. But then looking at the bigger picture in where would this lead me, where this will take me, I just looked at or reworked things differently to help me achieve my college goals.
So what I'm hearing is they help you to focus to achieve your goal. At the same time, there were also obstacles and difficulties that thrown your way. So I have two questions follow up with that.
Okay.
What motivates you to keep going regardless of facing all of these obstacles again, and again?
What motivated me to keep going, it's my family. My family is part of my core values, and outside of that, my faith. Everything that I set out to do is built into my core values with my faith and my family. Knowing those things are near and dear to me, it keeps me motivated. It keeps me times when I don't feel like doing something, or just if I'm having a bad day, I was like, okay, this is my purpose. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it seems like that ignites me. It gives me an energy that I didn't have, an energy like if I drank coffee or something. It's just something about my faith and my family, particularly my children, that really excites me. I want them to understand and see that regardless of what it is that you're facing, no matter what the challenge is, if you set your mind out to do something, you are focused, you can achieve it. And then also that motivation when I'm sharing with them, you block out the noise, you silence the noise where people will have things to say or make comparison. Again, This is your journey. These are your goals. And if this is something that you want to accomplish, you can do it.
Very, very strong will that I'm hearing. So go back to all of that difficulties that get in your way to achieve your goals.
Mhm.
I'm good feeling as I get up in the morning. Here it is a new thing. Here it is a new challenge. Here it is something in my way. It must be very tiring. How do you keep yourself sane to be able to keep pushing through?
I totally agree. It can be tiresome. And sometimes it can frankly look as if, am I really doing this for nothing? But when I ask myself the question, where will this lead me? What's my why in doing this? That also motivates me to keep going. Obviously, going back to as I shared, my faith is a big part of it. And so I'll tie that component in just to make sure that what I think that I want or what I'm looking to achieve, is that really the case? So there is some self awareness that you have to unpack and just dig a little deeper. Because obviously, if you don't do those things, you can just almost like if you're going down a rabbit hole, if you will, and then you're going through these obstacles and nothing is happening and you're back to square one over and over again. Really asking yourself those internal, those deep questions. Where will this lead me? What's my purpose? What's my why? And framing that to keep you focused.
I like how you bring your purpose into the conversations. I find values and purpose are some of those foundational elements for us to explore ourselves, understand ourselves, and truly be ourselves in daily life. Can you share how did you navigate all of the difficulties and obstacles, and at the same time, truly find out your purpose?
So let me start with the latter because it'll tie back into the purpose and how I navigate that. Before I knew that I wanted to be in the association management and nonprofit industry, I would always find myself volunteering in the community, just helping others. And that's something that I just really enjoyed and I love to do. So as I got older, matriculated through school, I learned there's an industry exactly for that. And I said, well, gosh, how cool is that? Like, this is what I love to do just because, but then I can also make a career out of doing it. And so serving others really helped shape my purpose. But then here I am. This is what I know my purpose is and what I want to do. How do I navigate that? I ask myself, why do I want to do this? And when I tie that back into the question of using my faith to help me channel those things, it just ties into that. What my faith and my background is part of those beliefs in the purpose of helping others, serving others, and what the overarching mission is for associations and why we do what we do. All of that keeps me grounded and it just helps navigate that way. And so when I'm having those obstacles or those challenges come up, I go back to those questions of what's my why? Why am I doing this again? Yes, I like to serve others, but why am I serving others? What's the goal in that? Not necessarily a goal for me, but helping others to achieve what it is that they're looking to do. And so I find myself when we are in association management and when we're at our association, what's our mission? Whether it's serving your members or serving the industry of your association, you're looking to help them achieve a common goal and provide various solutions. So unpacking that a little bit more just helps me move through or navigate those obstacles and those challenges. And it brings me back to my purpose and my why.
That's great. And thank you for sharing your approach to navigate and find out your purpose. I think there is a lot of wisdom in that. Let's go back to the theme of our conversations, persistence. What role does persistence play in how you express your authentic self?
The role persistence play for me to express my authentic self is knowing Shan is a person that has that strong will to continue to go. And regardless of what the day may bring, what the situation may look like, I'm making that personal commitment to myself in a healthy way with my boundaries to keep pushing forward. I like to frame what I do as I'm not doing something just because I'm doing it, unless it's like free time or a hobby or something. And so I just remind myself, Shan, you have to keep going. This is why you're doing this. If you stop, it won't go away. You just have to pick back up and start again. And even if you have to stop and do things differently, you keep going.
I'm hearing a lot of strong will in our conversation so far. So let's think about yourself in January. What goal did you have yourself for this year back in January?
In January, my goal was to, and I'm being honest and my authentic self. I wanted to be wherever God wanted me to be. I wanted to do what God would have me to do. Sometimes Shan can be in Shan's head and formulate all these different things that I want to do. I just want to do these things. But then I also am aware that some of those things may not tie into my purpose. So again, I'll scale it back for Shan and use my faith to make sure everything that I set out to do, it is aligned with God's divine purpose for my life.
Can you give me a specific example?
Sure. So a professional goal of mine, I wanted to be part of the DELP program, and not knowing if I would be accepted or not, I wanted to be a part of this amazing program to help others navigate or find what their purpose is and what it is they're looking out to achieve. So when I applied for the program and you get in the acceptance notification, it was just like, wow, I can't believe I was accepted. But then when I go back and I looked at my notes as to what was my purpose of wanting to be a part of DELP and what my other goals were, it just all made sense and it aligned.
Reflecting on that journey, you set your goal to apply for DELP, be part of DELP. You apply for DELP. Can you describe for me how persistent play in that example and how persistent works in your favor so that you can achieve your goal?
Great example with that will be when I initially heard of the DELP program, probably 4 years ago. I wanted to apply and be a part of it. There were things that prevented that, but I knew that this is something that I wanted to be a part of because of the purpose and the mission that it serves, and then what my purpose is. So when the opportunity came back around to apply, I did. And when again, going back to when I received that acceptance notification, I was just excited because from the initial time when I heard of the program and when I wanted to apply, and the things in between that time when it led up to the next cycle for me to apply and when I was accepted, I never stopped doing the work towards the goals that I was working on personally and professionally that will all tie into the greater purpose of why you are selected as a DELP scholar. And so that being persistent and to persevere in spite of the different challenges allowed me to continue to move forward. And even at that years ago when I wanted to be part of the program, I didn't let that deter me as far as, you know, like I'm just bummed out like this happened. I knew that it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. And so that excitement also kept me motivated. And so when that second cycle came back around, I was like, okay, Shan, here it is, and just went through the appropriate steps. And I'm just so excited to have received that acceptance notification.
I really appreciate you being very honest and open about these conversations. And that's what I love about all the interviews so far. We talk a lot about strong will, we talk a lot about persistency, and I can really see how that persistency being demonstrated through your journey and how you use it to express and nurture your authentic self, fully able to know, be able to pick up the elements from that. So let's think about the next 12 months for you. What's your goal for the next 12 months?
My main goal for the next 12 months professionally, I would like to be in more of a leadership role, not specifying titles, but being more in a leadership role where I can provide thought leadership, strategic leadership to help an organization thrust forward. And then a personal goal of mine that I'm working on with my LLC is continuing to help women find out what their purpose is, how to navigate against the struggles or the barriers in life that can prevent you from achieving your goals, and then how to find and get the necessary resources to help you with your goals as well.
So thinking about that goal and how you're working towards that goal, what role does persistency play in helping you pursuing that goal and at the same time helping you to embrace your authenticity in achieving that goal?
Persistency will play a big key because I know that it's not going to be easy. And there are going to be obstacles in the way, whether it can be time or people that have provided support and just things are changing. But to know what the greater purpose and the greater good and the work that it is that I'm looking to do, the benefit of how it will help so many people, that will give me that persistence that I need to persevere. And to know that this is who Shan is, regardless of what the challenge is that I may face, the things that may come up, to not give up and to keep going.
Again, I hear a lot of strong will, but I'd like to go to a softer side of Shan. Can you share with me how do you de-stress? What do you do in your downtime to give you that energy to keep going and nurturing your strong will?
So my downtime, or my fragile time, as I like to call it at times, is just surrounding myself with my family, my friends who can pour into me to just listen, to hear me. And then also those are moments where Shan can be corrected, if you will, or say, okay, well, Shan, think about or look at this differently. I love to take walks to refresh my mind, give me a mental reset, and just regardless of what the cares in the world are at that moment, is my walks help me to just reset, to refresh. As I let what's on my mind go temporarily and just take in the beauty of nature. Also, in my downtime, I love to cook. I love to try different recipes, and I love entertaining as well. So, just surrounding myself with a true village of supporters who can hold me accountable, who can speak life to me as well, and just keep me grounded.
What I love about that is we can go out to the world as far as we have a good, strong support network at home. Who can we feel safe and be around, be supported? I really love that about this conversation. We are getting to the end of the episode. I do have one last question for you.
Okay.
If you are going on a dream vacation tomorrow, what is the one item you will take with you?
I would say a journal, my favorite journal, and one of my nice pens. I do have a knack for nice writing pens, and I'll take that. And as I'm on my dream vacation, I get to just write down different thoughts that come to mind, whatever those thoughts may be, just to write.
I love how you bring your journal and jot down your thoughts with
Uh,
you. Can you share with me a prompt or tool that you use in your
journaling practice?
Sure. One of my prompts I use is I'll ask myself a question. How can I help others? And I just put that at the top of the page. I underline it and I just reflect on that. So even in my moments of walking, when I release from the day-to-day, personal, professional, having that question and it varies week to week in my journal. But whatever that forefront question is, then I'll just use that quietness to reflect on that. I'll have questions of thoughts there to lead that. Another prompt that I use is just prayer. I have a part in my house that's like a prayer closet, and inside of that, I have a cork board, and I divide it into 4 quadrants. And so one is personal, one is fitness, one is professional, and one is family. And so depending upon whichever quadrant I'm looking at, I'll use that as a prompt for my journaling as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
That's it for today's episode. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to hear your take on the chosen keyword. Have a lovely time, and thank you again for spending time with Humans of Authenticity. Until next time.